Good evening, friends. Welcome to Boring History for Sleep. Tonight, we're going to drift away together, back through time, to a world that smells of smoke and earth and something wonderfully strange, a bitter, powerful drink that would one day conquer the world, but not as you know it. So find your most comfortable position, settle in, dim your lights, pull your blanket up just a little higher, feeling the weight of it, the safety of it. Let your body grow heavy. Let the sounds of your room fade away, replaced only by the soft, steady sound of my voice. We're going to explore the world of the Mexica, the people we call the Aztecs, and their most sacred, surprising ingredient. We're exploring why their chocolate tasted nothing at all like your sweet, creamy, hot cocoa. There's nothing you need to do, nothing to remember. Just allow your mind to follow along, floating on the words. If this calm journey helps you unwind, if you feel the stillness settling over you, perhaps tap like and subscribe. Only if it feels right. Of course, it just lets me know you found some peace here. For now, just breathe. In and out. Let the day dissolve. Tonight, we'll drift into the heart of an ancient empire, one bean at a time. Chapter 1. The bitter seed of a god. Let's begin our journey not in a kitchen, but in a jungle. A humid, heavy-aired jungle in Mesoamerica. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the air here is thick. You can almost drink it. It's alive with the sound of unseen insects, the distant call of a macaw, a soft, green, endless hum. Your feet are pressing into damp earth, a carpet of fallen leaves that have rested here for centuries. Look up. The canopy is so dense, only slivers of sunlight, like golden coins, manage to dapple the forest floor, and there, growing not from a branch, but strangely, directly from the trunk of a gnarled, medium-sized tree, you see them. They look like small, ridged melons, or perhaps oversized, lumpy almonds. They are pods, Theobroma cacao pods, and they are heavy, hanging in shades of green, yellow, and a deep royal purple. They don't look like much. They certainly don't smell like chocolate. If you were to crack one open right now, you wouldn't find a sweet brown powder. You'd find a cluster of large, pale seeds, almost like giant lima beans, encased in a white, dicky, slightly sweet pulp. It's a bit like a lychee, that pulp. And for a long, long time, this was the only part people ate. They'd suck the sweet pulp off the seeds and just spit the seeds themselves onto the forest floor. Imagine that. For generations, the most valuable part of the plant, the seed, the bean, was just trash. It was the ancient equivalent of spitting out a watermelon seed. Nobody had yet unlocked the secret. The people who first truly unlocked it, the Olmecs, and later the Maya, they were the true innovators. They're the ones who looked at that bitter, discarded seed and thought, what if? What if we don't just throw this away? What if we let it sit? What if we dry it? What if we roast it? This is where the magic begins. And it's not a quick magic. It's a slow, patient, and frankly, kind of smelly magic. The first step was fermentation. Imagine a village square, or perhaps a quiet courtyard paved with stone, warm from the afternoon sun. Farmers have brought these pods from the jungle, sliced them open with sharp obsidian blades, and scooped out the contents. The pale, slimy beans are piled high. Now, they are covered with banana leaves, big, waxy, green sheets that trap the heat and the moisture, and they just sit. For 2 days, 3 days, sometimes almost a week. And as they sit, a process begins. Yeast that are naturally in the air, just floating by, land on that sweet pulp and begin to feast. It's a party for them. And like any good party, it generates heat. The pile of beans begins to warm up and up, getting almost too hot to touch. The pulp liquefies, dripping away, and the smell, well, it's not chocolate. Not yet. It's sharp. It smells like vinegar, like fermenting fruit. It's a pungent, almost acidic aroma that would probably make you wrinkle your nose. But this bad smell is the key. Inside the bean, that heat and that acidic bath are changing everything. The bitterness is softening. The complex chemicals that will one day become the idea of chocolate are being born. The bean itself, once pale, turns a sortal of purplish brown. After this long, hot, sour bath, the beans are spread out. Now they must be dried. Imagine them scattered across large reed mats in a wide open plaza the sun beats down. All day someone has the job of simply raking the beans, a gentle rhythmic task. Scrape shush turn, scrape shush turn, letting the air and the hot sun kiss every single bean, drying it out, stopping the fermentation before it goes too far. This goes on for days, maybe a week, maybe two, until the beans are hard, dark and shrunken. They rattle when you scoop them up. They are now stable. They can be stored, they can be traded, but they still don't taste like chocolate. Not really. If you were to bite one, you break a tooth. And if you did manage to crack it, the taste would be intensely bitter, earthy, and raw, like chewing on acidic coffee grounds. The soul of chocolate is there, but it's still sleeping. The final step, the one that truly awakens the flavor, is the roast. Picture a cool evening. The sun has set. A woman is kneeling beside a flat earthenware griddle, a cornmeal, balanced over a low, crackling fire. The clay is hot. She takes a handful of the dried, fermented beans and scatters them onto the cornmeal. Almost immediately, a new smell fills the air. It's not sweet. It's not milk chocolate. It's dry, toasty, nutty, a little smoky from the fire. It's a rich, adult smell. She uses a small brush made of twigs or a wooden paddle to keep them moving, rolling them over the hot surface so they don't burn. Click, clack, scrape. Click, clack, scrape. The sound of the beans rolling on the hot clay, the soft crackle of the fire. She's listening. She's watching. The beans darken from brown to a deep, oily, blackish brown. Their thin husks start to crackle and pop. Ever so slightly, the aroma deepens, becoming more complex hints of fruit, of earth, of something more. This is an art. Too little time, and the flavor is raw. Too much, and it's just bitter, burnt carbon. She knows, by the smell and the sound, exactly when they are done. She sweeps them off the cornmeal into a woven basket to cool. And now, you have something close to what the Aztecs, the Mexica, would have recognized as cacao. But you still can't drink it. Not yet. The next step is to get rid of that papery, useless husk. This was tedious work. After roasting, the husks are brittle women, and perhaps children, would sit in the courtyard, the cool morning air on their faces, and they would rub the beans between their palms, or gently pound them to loosen the husks. Then they would lay them on a mat and blow, a gentle, steady breath, or they'd pour them from one basket to another, letting the breeze, that kind whisper of the wind god xocolatl, carry the light, papery chaff away. What's left behind are the broken pieces of the bean itself. We call these nibs. These nibs, these are the treasure. If you were to pop one in your mouth now, it would be a revelation. It would crunch. It would be intensely everything bitter, yes, but also deeply nutty, slightly fruity, toasty, and complex. It would fill your mouth with a flavor so strong it's almost savory. There is absolutely zero sweetness. None. It's as far from a milk chocolate chip as you can possibly imagine. It's a food of the earth. And it was from these nibs that the journey to a beverage a divine beverage would begin. But it wasn't a journey toward a sweet, comforting bedtime drink. It was a journey toward a stimulating, powerful, and precious potion. A drink that was for them, quite literally, a gift from a god. The god in question was Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, a god of wind, of the sky, of knowledge. The stories said that he was the one who stole the cacao tree from the other gods, who were keeping it for themselves, and brought it down to earth as a gift for humankind. He taught them how to cultivate it, how to prepare it, and for this he was beloved. The plant was sacred. The beans weren't just food, they were divine. They were a connection to this powerful, benevolent god. So when the Mexica prepared this drink, they weren't just making a beverage, they were performing a ritual. They were honoring a god. They were consuming something powerful, something that held a spark of the divine. This brings us to the most important part of the process, the grinding. This was hard physical labor, and it was done on a tool that was central to every single household, the metate. Imagine a three-legged stone. It's not flat, it's curved, like a saddle or a shallow trough. It's made of volcanic stone, rough and porous. With it comes a stone rolling pin, called a mano. It's heavy. You don't roll it. You kneel in front of the metate, on a reed mat on the cool, packed earth floor of your home. You take a handful of the roasted, husked nibs and place them at the top of the stone saddle. And you begin to grind. You press down with the mano, pushing forward, crushing the nibs against the rough stone. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. It's a rhythmic, powerful sound. Your shoulders, your back, your arms, all of them are working. You push the nibs down, and then you scrape them back up to the top. And you do it again and again. Scrunch, scrape, scrunch, scrape. At first, it's just a dry, crumbly powder, a coarse, dark brown meal. But the nibs are full of fat. Cacao beans are more than 50% fat, what we call cocoa butter. And as you keep grinding, the friction and the pressure and the heat from your hands and the stone, it starts to melt that fat. The powder begins to change. It gets oily. It starts to clump together. The aroma is released in a huge, powerful wave. Now, the smell is intense. It's the smell of those nibs, but magnified, earthy, rich, almost pungent. You keep grinding. Scrunch, shush, scrunch, shush. The work is hard, your muscles ache, but you keep going. The clumps get finer and finer until they are no longer clumps at all. What you have now sitting in the curved belly of the metate is not a powder, it's a paste. A thick, dark, gritty, oily paste. This is chocolate. This is the base for everything. It would have been so tempting, perhaps, to just eat this, to dip a finger in. And they might have. But this paste was often shaped into blocks or cakes, dried and stored. It was a transportable, stable form of all that work. But for a drink, the paste was just the beginning. This paste was it was 100% cacao. We call that unsweetened or baker's chocolate today. And we know you can't really just eat it. It's overwhelmingly bitter and fatty. So the Mexica, when they wanted to drink it, would take a portion of this paste and they would add water. Let's pause there. Water. Not milk, not cream. Dairy milk from cows or goats, it simply didn't exist in Mesoamerica. There were no cows, no goats. The very concept of adding milk to this drink would have been as alien to them as adding, say, fish sauce. It just wasn't in their world. So they would take this paste and add water. But it doesn't just dissolve. Remember all that fat? Fat and water, they don't like to mix. So you'd have a gritty, oily, sludgy mess. It would be unpleasant. The Mexica had a secret weapon, a final, crucial, and very dramatic step. And it was this step that turned a lumpy, oily sludge into a beverage worthy of an emperor. This was the step that defined their chocolate. It was the foam. Let's imagine we're in a noble's house. The air is cool. Sunlight streams in from a central courtyard. We are preparing a drink xocolatl. The water is in one large painted ceramic pot. The ground cacao paste, perhaps already mixed with a bit of water to loosen it, is in another. The server, maybe a young woman, takes the pot of watery chocolate and she lifts it, high as her arm can reach, and she begins to pour it in a long, steady, thin stream into another empty pot sitting on the floor. Shh! The sound of the liquid hitting the clay, falling from such a height. It splashes, it churns, it aerates. She catches it. Then she lifts that pot and pours it all the way back into the first one. Shh! Again, and again, and again. This isn't a gentle stir. This is a performance. It's a display of skill. Pouring back and forth, back and forth. Her arms are strong, her movements precise. She doesn't spill a drop. And with every pour, a transformation happens. The fat and the water, forced together by this violent churning fall, begin to emulsify. They join, and the air, a lot of air, is forced into the mixture. A foam begins to build. A thick, rich, stable, beautiful foam. This foam was everything. It was the most prized part of the drink. A drink served without a thick, beautiful head of foam was considered a failure. It was an insult. The foam was the sign of a properly made, luxurious and respectful drink. It was the creamer on the espresso, times 1,000. It was the entire point. When it was finally ready, it would be presented in a special, beautifully painted cup called a xocolatl. These cups had no handles. You held them in the cup of your hand. And the drink itself, what was it like? It was intense. First, it was served cold, or, at best, room temperature. Remember, this isn't a hot cocoa. They didn't gently warm it over a fire to be a comforting, cozy drink. It was a stimulant, a ritual, a medicine, and it was served cool. So you lift this xocolatl to your lips. The first thing you get is that foam. It's thick, and it coats your upper lip. It's not sweet. It's just the pure, concentrated essence of the chocolate, but made light and airy. Then you taste the liquid underneath. It's shocking. To our modern palates, it would be a challenge. It is first and foremost bitter. A deep, resonant bitterness. It's also gritty. No matter how long you ground it on the metat, you could never get it as smooth as a modern machine-milled chocolate bar. So there's a texture, a slight chew to it, a particulate feeling. And it's oily. The fat, even though it's emulsified, is present. It would coat your mouth. A thick, heavy, almost greasy feeling. So you have this cold, gritty, oily, bitter liquid. It doesn't sound great, does it? It doesn't sound like something that empires would treasure, that kings would drink, that people would use as money. But we've missed the other ingredients, because they almost never drank it straight. That was boring. That was for the commoners, maybe, or for medicinal purposes. No, the nobles, the elite, the warriors, they flavored it. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. What do you add to a cold, bitter, oily drink to make it amazing? Well, what do you have? You're in Mesoamerica in the 1400s. You do not have sugar. Not cane sugar. That's from Asia. It hasn't arrived. It doesn't exist in your world. You do not have cinnamon. That's from Sri Lanka. You do not have cloves. You do not have milk. So, what do you have? You have chilies. Yes, chili peppers. This is perhaps the most famous addition. They would grind dried smoky chilies, maybe a pasilla for a deep, raisiny flavor, or a small, hot piquin for a bright, sharp kick, and they'd grind it right in with the cacao nibs on the metate. So now, when you take a sip, whoa. The bitterness is still there. The grittiness is still there. But now it's balanced by heat, a warmth that spreads in your chest, a tingle on your tongue. It's not a spicy hot chocolate like we might buy in a cafe. It's a chilly drink with a background of deep, bitter chocolate. The two flavors, earth and fire, dancing together. It's bracing. It wakes you up. What else? They had vanilla. This is one of the few flavorings we'd recognize. The vanilla orchid is native to this very jungle. They'd scrape the tiny, fragrant seeds from the dried pod and grind them in too. This wouldn't add sweetness, not really, but it would add aroma. A beautiful, floral, perfume-like quality that softens the harsh edges of the chili and the bitter cacao. It adds a roundness, a complexity. So now we have a cold, gritty, bitter, oily drink that's also spicy and floral. We're getting closer. But they had so many other things, so many wonderful, strange spices. One of their favorites was called xocolatl, which means divine ear. It was the dried flower of a specific plant, and it had a flavor, well, it was apparently peppery, a bit like black pepper, but also cinnamony. It was their version of cinnamon. A warm, spicy, woody note. They had allspice, which grows there too. We call it allspice because it tastes like a combination of cloves, nutmeg, and cinnamon. They would grind these berries in, adding even more of that warm spice flavor. And they had achiote. You might know it as annatto. It's a small, hard, red seed. It doesn't taste like much, a little peppery, a little earthy, but it bleeds a vibrant blood-red color. Imagine this. They would add achiote to the paste. And now, the drink isn't just a muddy brown. It's a deep, rich red, a symbolic, powerful, blood-red color. So let's picture the final drink. The drink of a king, like Moctezuma. It's served cold. It's in a golden chicali, or one painted with jaguars and eagles. It's topped with a foam so thick it's almost a solid. The drink itself is red. You take a sip, it's gritty, it's rich and fatty, it's deeply bitter. And then bam, a complex explosion of flavor. You get the smoke of the chili, the floral perfume of the vanilla, the peppery, warm kick of the divine ear, and the allspice. It's a full-on, savory, spicy, herbal, bitter experience. It is not a dessert. It is a power-up. This was a drink for warriors before battle. It was a drink for priests during long, nighttime rituals. The theobromine in the cacao, it's a stimulant. It opens the blood vessels. It quickens the heart. It gives you energy. It makes you alert. This, combined with the fire of the chilies, this was a drink that made you feel powerful, alive. This was not comfort in a cup. This was power in a cup. And what about sweetness? Did they just not like sweet things? Oh no, they loved sweet things. They just had different sources of sweetness. Their primary source was honey. Honey from the native stingless bees of the Yucatan. This honey was fragrant, floral, and precious. It was not something you just dump into a drink every day. But they also had agave. The sap of the agave plant, aguamiel, or honey water, could be reduced into a thick, sweet syrup. So yes, they could make a sweet version. They would mix in honey or agave syrup. They would perhaps add corn. Yes, corn. Atole, a staple drink, a thick, comforting porridge made from ground corn, water, and lime. They would sometimes combine their chocolate with atole. They'd mix the cacao paste into this thick, warm, corn-based gruel. And this would be sweetened with honey. This would be spiced with chilies. This is the closest they ever got to our idea of hot chocolate. It would be thick, almost like a thin pudding. It would be warm. It would be nourishing and filling from the corn. It would be sweet from the honey, and it would have that kick, that complex, bitter, spicy note from the cacao and the chilies. This was a meal, a savory, sweet, spicy, medieval Pop-Tart liquid thing. It's hard for us to even imagine. But the drink, the main drink, the xocolatl, was the cold, foamy, bitter, spicy one. And it was so valuable, the beans themselves, that it was their money. We are going to take a small pause from this and let your mind drift. We've just left a cool stone kitchen, filled with the smell of chilies and vanilla and roasted, earthy cacao. We can still hear the sound shh of the drink being poured from a great height, shh, building that precious, sacred foam. Let that sound be a wave washing over you. Let the image of that rich, red, foamy drink just float in your mind. And as we leave that kitchen, as we leave the sound of the grinding stone scrunch scrape, let your mind wander even further. Let's move away from the drink and think about the bean. What did it mean to have your money grow on trees? We say it as a joke. For them, it was reality. Now let your mind go quiet just for a moment. Just drift. Let the image of that foamy red cup gently fade. We are stepping out of the kitchen. Our feet, perhaps clad in simple woven sandals, find the cool, packed earth of the pathway outside. We are leaving the quiet residential world, and we are walking. The air is clear. The sun is well. It's not yet midday. It's the time of the morning when the world is alive, when things are happening, and we are heading to the market. Imagine a low, steady sound, a hum, like the sound of a distant beehive. At first, it's almost below your hearing, a vibration in the earth. But as we walk, following the wide, clean-swept causeway, this hum, it grows. It becomes the sound of people, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people. We are walking into Tlatelolco, the great, grand sister city market of Tenochtitlan. It is enormous. It's a vast, open plaza paved with stones, and it is teeming with life. But it is not chaotic. It is organized. There's a strange, quiet order to it. There's no shouting. There's no haggling. Not in the way we think of it. It's a low, pleasant murmur. The sound of commerce. The sound of life. And the smells, oh, the smells. As we enter the great plaza, the air is thick. You can smell copal incense, a sharp, pine-like sacred smell, drifting from a small temple at the edge of the square. You can smell dust, just the clean, dry smell of the sun-baked plaza. You can smell food, the smell of hot comals, the toasty, nutty aroma of corn tortillas being made. A smell that is the very bread of this world. You can smell ripe fruit, the musky scent of melons, the bright tang of tomatillos. You can smell flowers, piles and piles of marigolds, bright, pungent and golden. It's overwhelming and wonderful. Your eyes try to take it all in. Sections. Everything is in sections. Here, in this row, it's all pottery beautiful, reddish-brown clay pots, comals for cooking, cups for drinking. Over there it's the jewelers. Men sitting on mats, patiently drilling tiny, tiny holes in beads of jade green, milky, precious jade. Over there it's the animal market. You can hear the low gobble-gobble of turkeys, the cooing of doves, the quiet rustle of rabbits in wooden cages. It's a city within a city. And we are here to buy something. Perhaps a turkey. A fine plump turkey for a feast. So how do we pay? We don't have coins. Coins, metal discs with faces on them, they don't exist here. This is a world without that kind of cold currency. We don't have paper money. What we have is a small woven cotton bag, a cornmeal. It's tied at our waist. It's soft. It doesn't jingle. It rustles. Let's untie it. Let's open the small cloth bag. Look inside. It's full of beans. Cacao beans. The very same roasted, husked, fermented, dried beans we just talked about. This is our wallet. Imagine this. Your money grows on trees. Your money is a food. Your money is the sacred gift of a god. Your money is also delicious. Let's reach in. Let's take a handful of our money. What does it feel like? The beans are hard. They're light, but substantial. They're not all the same size. Some are larger, some are smaller, a bit broken. They have a dry, slightly rough, papery yet hard texture. And the smell. Our hand, as we pull it out of the bag, smells amazing. It smells of that toasty, earthy, nutty, rich aroma. We have a pocket full of chocolate. This was the currency. Not all the currency, of course. For large purchases, people traded bolts of cotton cloth or fine green jade beads. But for everyday things, for the day-to-day, the walking around money, it was the bean, and it had a value, a very specific value. The Mexica, they were meticulous, they were organized, they were the original bean counters. They knew exactly what a bean was worth. So we walk past the man selling tamales, those wonderful steamed cornmeal packets. How much for one? One single cacao bean. Imagine you hand him one bean. He hands you one hot steaming tamale. It's a perfect, simple, wonderful transaction. We pass a woman with a mountain of avocados. Big, beautiful, ripe avocados. How much? Perhaps 3 beans. 3 beans for this perfect, fatty, green fruit. We see a man selling canoes. Well, not the canoes, but a ride in a canoe. To cross the lake, to get to the other side of the city. He paddles you and your goods. The price? Maybe 2 beans, or 3 beans, depending on the distance. We are on a mission though. We need a turkey. We walk to the animal section. The gobbling is louder now. The turkeys are beautiful, large, with iridescent feathers. They're quite valuable. We find a merchant. He has a pen full of them. We point to a good one, a plump, healthy turkey. How much? We gesture. And he replies. He holds up his hands, and he indicates a number. 100. 100 cacao beans for 1 turkey. 100 tamales for 1 turkey. This makes you pause. You feel the weight of that. A turkey is a serious purchase. This is not an impulse buy. We look in our bag. We count. We pull them out, one by one, or maybe in piles. The Mexica, they had a counting system based on 20. So we count 5 piles of 20. We hand them over. The merchant, he counts them. He inspects them. And this is where it gets interesting. Because if your money grows on trees, what stops someone from just faking it? What stops me from finding a different bean that looks like a cacao bean and passing it off? Well, they did. This was a problem. Counterfeiting cacao beans. It sounds adorable. It sounds funny. But it was serious. It was economic fraud. And the counterfeiters were artists. They were creative. How did they do it? Well, the easiest way was to just find old beans. Beans that had gone bad. Beans from last year's harvest. Beans that were moldy or spoiled or had lost their rich color. They would polish them. They'd rub them with a little bit of earth or clay to give them that perfect reddish-brown sheen. They'd try to pass off duds. But that was amateur hour. The real artists had better tricks. One trick was avocado pits. Imagine, you take a large avocado pit, you dry it, and then you sit down and you carve it. You whittle it down into the shape of a large cacao bean. It's a lot of work, but if one turkey costs 100 beans and you can carve 100 fake beans from a few avocado pits that you got for free, well, you see the math. But even that wasn't the best trick. The masterpiece of cacao fraud was this. You take a real cacao bean, a good one, a perfect one, and very carefully you slice open the husk. You empty it. You scrape out the valuable cacao nib inside. So now you have a hollow shell, and you fill it. What with? Mud, dirt, sand, clay. You pack it full of worthless earth until it has the right weight, the perfect heft. And then ever so carefully, you glue the husk back together, maybe with a tiny dab of plant resin. Now you have a counterfeit bean that looks perfect. It smells right on the outside. It feels right. It has the right weight. It is full of lies. It is a mud-filled lie. So, back to our turkey merchant. We have handed him our 100 beans. He is not just counting them. He is checking them. He's a professional. He knows all the tricks. He pours them out onto his mat. He spreads them with his hand. His eyes scan them. He's looking for color. Is one bean too pale? Is one too dark and shiny? A sign of polishing. He picks one up, a suspicious one. He feels it. He rolls it between his thumb and forefinger. He's feeling for that seam, that tiny crack where the mud was put in. He smells it. Does it smell like fresh cacao? Or does it smell like clay and old leaves? And the final test. He presses his thumbnail into it. Hard. A good bean is hard and brittle. It would crack. A mud-filled bean would just dent. It would be soft. He finds one. He looks at us. He doesn't yell. He doesn't call the guards. The guards are here, by the way. Judges sit right here in the market to settle disputes instantly. But he just calmly picks up the bad bean with 2 fingers. He shows it to us. He drops it on the ground, and he looks at our bag. The implication is clear. One more bean. We quickly reach in. We find another bean, a good one. We hope. We hand it over. He inspects it. He nods. The transaction is complete. He scoops. He 99 good beans and our 1 replacement bean into his own pouch. He reaches into the pen, and with a practiced hand, he grabs the turkey. He ties its feet together with a bit of grass twine. He hands it to us. It's heavy, it's warm, and it costs 100 beans. We have just spent our money. Let's think about this. This system. Your money is organic. It has a shelf life. You can't just store it forever. It can rot. It can get eaten by bugs. This means you have to use it. It keeps the economy moving. You can't hoard it too long. Of course the rich did. The Emperor Moctezuma, his royal treasury was not filled with gold. Gold was pretty, but it wasn't money. It was for decoration. His treasury was a warehouse. A giant warehouse filled with cacao beans. Millions of them. Piles and piles. A royal tribute was paid in beans. A city might have to pay the emperor a tribute of 200 loads of cacao beans every year. It was a serious business, and it creates a wonderful, strange tension. This bean in my hand, this one bean, it is a tamale. It is also a prayer. It is money. It is also medicine. It is also the drink of the gods. So when you decide to make that cold, foamy, bitter drink as we talked about in the kitchen, when you grind 30, 40, 50 beans to make 1 cup, you are not just making a beverage. You are literally drinking your wealth. You are consuming half a turkey. You are drinking 50 tamales. This is why it was a drink for nobles. This is why it was a drink for warriors, for priests. For a common person to drink chocolate regularly would be like us lighting a cigar with $100 bill. It's wasteful, it's decadent, it's showing off. The bean held this dual power. It was mundane, it bought your food, and it was sacred, it was the god's food. This is so different from our world. Our money is abstract, it's paper, it's plastic, it's numbers on a screen. Their money smelled delicious. Their money made them feel energetic and powerful when they consumed it. Their money could be counterfeited with mud. Let's think about other prices, just to feel the world a little more. We have our turkey, 100 beans. We pass a man selling rabbits, a bit less meat, a little cheaper, maybe 30 beans for a rabbit, a single turkey egg, maybe 3 beans, a simple cotton cloak, a basic one to wear every day, perhaps 60 beans, a good cloak, a well-made one with a small pattern, 100 beans, the same as our turkey, a slave, a person. This is a darker part of their world. Someone who had to sell themselves into bondage to pay a debt. How much? It depended on their skill, but a common laborer could cost around 2,000 beans. 2,000, 20 turkeys. A truly fine jade bead, one of those perfect milky green stones that were more valuable than gold. 600 beans, 6 turkeys for one beautiful stone. It paints a picture. The bean was the connective tissue of their economy, and it all came from that one tree. Theobroma cacao, food of the gods, and all of it was based on that bitter, unsweet, fatty, powerful seed. Let's leave the market now. We're walking away. The sound of the thousands of people is fading behind us. That low, steady hum is getting quieter and quieter. We are carrying our turkey. It was a successful trip. We are walking back to the quiet of our home. Our money pouch is lighter, 100 beans lighter, and we are thinking about value. We are thinking about what we can buy. But this bean was not just for buying things. It was not just for drinking. The Mexico were a practical people. This bean, this paste, this butter inside it. It was also medicine. It was a drug store. And as we settle back into the quiet of our home, let's let our minds drift away from the bustling market, away from the sound of commerce and the worry of counterfeit beans. Let's move into a quieter space, a calmer space, a room where someone is sick, a room where someone needs healing. Because the chocolate is there too, but not in the way you think. Let your mind go soft. Let the sounds fade. Just the idea of a healing touch, a soothing balm. Just breathe in and out. Let the busy sounds of the market just melt away. That bright, sunny plaza fades into a soft, warm darkness. We are inside now. The air is different. It's still. It smells of dried herbs. A lot of dried herbs. Bunches of them hang from the wooden rafters above us. You can smell something minty, something earthy, like damp roots. And underneath it all, the sharp, sacred smell of copal incense burning in a corner. This is the house of the xocolatl, the physician, the healer. It's a quiet room. The only light comes from one small open doorway, leading to a courtyard. And in this dim, calm light we see her. She is old. Her face is a beautiful map of lines. Her hair is white and braided. She is kneeling on a reed mat in front of her own metate. But this metate is different. It isn't just for cacao. This is her workstation. She is grinding something. Scrunch, scrape, scrunch, scrape. The sound is the same, but the smell is not. She is grinding a dried root. It's fibrous and tough. The Mexica believed that sickness came from many places. Sometimes you just had a fever. Sometimes a god was angry with you. Sometimes your own spirit had gotten lost or startled. The xocolatl had to treat all of these. She was part doctor, part priestess, part therapist. And one of her most important tools in her kit was cacao. Now the title of this chapter is a little joke. The cacao that cured almost nothing. It's funny because they used it for everything. If you had a cough, they gave you cacao. If you had a fever, cacao. If you had a rash, cacao. If you were sad, cacao. It sounds like a miracle drug, but it wasn't. Not really. The cacao itself didn't often do the curing. The cacao was a helper. It was a vehicle. It was a disguise. And most importantly, it was fat. Let's think about that. The cacao bean is more than 50% fat. Pure, rich fat. We call it cocoa butter. The xocolatl has a small clay pot next to her. It's filled with a pale, yellowish, solid paste. It is pure cocoa butter. She has rendered it down from the cacao paste. Now a man comes in. He is a farmer. He works in the fields all day. The sun is hot. The wind is dry. His skin is cracked. His hands are rough. His lips are split. It hurts. He comes to the xocolatl. She doesn't give him a drink. She takes a small dab of that yellowish paste on her finger, and she rubs it gently onto his cracked lips. Imagine that feeling. The butter is cool at first, and then the warmth of his skin begins to melt it. It melts instantly. It soothes. It protects. It creates a soft, waxy, waterproof barrier over that sore, dry skin. It is the world's most expensive, most sacred lip balm. It is chapstick from the gods. And it works. The farmer feels instant relief. The xocolatl might scrape a little of the butter into a tiny seashell for him to take with him. Now imagine a child who has gotten too close to the cooking fire. A small burn on their arm. It's red. It's painful. The mother brings the child to the xocolatl. The xocolatl might mix that cacao butter with something else. Maybe with the ash from a certain plant, which is antiseptic. Maybe with the pollen of a marigold flower, which is soothing. She makes a little salve, a poultice, and she spreads it gently over the burn. What does this do? The fat cools the skin. It creates a barrier against the air. It keeps the wound clean. It keeps dirt and flies away. The burn heals faster. It doesn't get infected. Did the cacao cure it? Number. Time cured it. But the cacao made it possible. It protected it. It was a perfect, sterile, stable, skin-loving grease, and it smelled a little bit like heaven. This was his first secret power. It was just a really good moisturizer. But what about internal medicine? Let's go back to the xocolatl at her grinding stone. Scrunch, scrape, scrunch, scrape. She is grinding that bitter, bitter root. It's a medicine for fevers, and it tastes awful. It tastes like bitter dirt. It's chalky. It's acrid. No one wants to eat this. If she mixes it with water and gives it to the patient, they'll just spit it out. So the xocolatl has a trick. She finishes grinding the root. She sweeps the grey powder into a bowl. Then she takes a handful of cacao beans, the good stuff, roasted, husked nibs. She puts them on her matat, and she begins to grind them. Scrunch, shush, scrunch, shush. She grinds them down into that thick, dark, oily paste. Now she has 2 bowls. In one bowl is the disgusting, grey, bitter fever medicine. In the other bowl is the intensely bitter, rich, aromatic, oily cacao paste. She takes a spoonful of the fever powder, and she mixes it into the cacao paste. She stirs it all together. What does she have now? She has a doubly bitter sludge. But the cacao is a bully. It has a flavor so strong, so powerful, so oily and all-consuming, that it muscles the other bitterness out of the way. You don't taste the grey root. You only taste the cacao. It's the ancient Mesoamerican version of a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Except it's not sugar. It's a different, stronger bitterness. And think of the patient. A noble, perhaps. He is sick. He is weak. He doesn't want to drink filthy root water. But the Ticitl comes to him and says, "My lord, I have prepared a medicine for you. It is made with our most sacred food. It is made with cacao." And suddenly the patient is interested. Cacao, for me, the food of the gods. The prestige of the cacao makes the medicine important. It makes it palatable. The patient takes the small lump of medicated paste. It's gritty, it's oily, it's intensely bitter. But the fat of the cacao coats his throat. It slides down easily. And an hour later, his fever begins to break. The root did the work, but the cacao got the credit. "That divine cacao," he murmurs. "It cured me." And so the legend grows. The cacao is a cure-all. This was its second great power. It was a master of disguise, a delivery system, a culinary Trojan horse for terrible tasting remedies. But there is one more thing. One way in which the cacao itself really did work. Let's imagine a different patient. This person isn't hot with fever. They are cold. They are listless, weak. They have no appetite. They won't get up from their mat. The spark has gone out of them. What we might call lethargy or depression. The Ticitl sees this. She knows that no bitter root will fix this. This person needs life. They need energy. They need a jolt. So she prepares a drink. It's not the cold, foamy, spicy drink of the nobles. It is a small cup. Perhaps it is warm. She mixes cacao paste with hot water and corn. Atole. It's nourishing. It has calories. And it has the cacao. She brings it to the listless patient. She holds the cup to their lips. "Drink." The patient drinks, and then we wait. 10 minutes pass. Inside the patient's body, something is happening. That cacao is full of a chemical, a wonderful chemical, theobromine. It's like caffeine, but gentler, kinder. It doesn't make you jittery. It just gently wakes you up. The theobromine enters the bloodstream. It tells the heart to beat just a little stronger. Boom, boom. It tells the blood vessels to open up, to relax. More blood flows to the brain, to the muscles. And the patient on the mat, their eyes open, just a little wider. A tiny bit of color returns to their face. They sit up, just a little. They feel not cured, but better, warmer, more alert. They feel a spark. This was the cacao's true magic. It was a stimulant. It was an antidepressant. It was a motivator. For someone recovering from a long illness, this gentle lift could be the thing that gave them the strength to eat a real meal, the thing that gave them the will to get up. It didn't cure the disease. It helped cure the sickness of the spirit. So you see, the Ticitl was right. Cacao for a rash. Yes, the fat suits it. Cacao for a fever. Yes, it hides the real medicine. Cacao for sadness. Yes, the theobromine lifts the heart. It wasn't the cure-all. It was a help-all. It was the kindest tool in her bag. And now we can leave her room. Let's leave this quiet, herb-scented space. Let's leave the sound of the grinding stone behind us. Scrunch, scrape. Let that sound just rock you, gently. Scrunch, scrape. Let your body grow heavy. Let your mind drift away from healing and sickness. Let's float on the air. Let's drift into a different part of the city. The sun is setting now. The sky is turning a deep purple and orange. The air is cool, and we can hear music. A soft flute, a gentle drum. We are going to a party, a feast, and the cacao is there too. But this time it's not money, it's not medicine. This time it's a show. Let your mind go soft. Just follow the sound of the flute. Deeper and deeper into the twilight. Just rest. The flute is closer now. A soft, reedy sound that rises and falls like a breath. And the drum. Thump, 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 a steady, low heartbeat. Not a war drum, but a slow, patient heartbeat drum. We have walked through a low stone archway and into a wide courtyard. It's open to the night sky. The stars are sharp and white in the blackness. The air is cool and clear. Around the edges of the courtyard, torches are set into the walls. They burn brightly, casting long, dancing shadows. Crackle, pop, sizzle. A gentle, flickering sound. The walls are smooth stucco, painted in shades of red and yellow with images of eagles and jaguars. This is a feast, a party for nobles. They are here, sitting on low carved wooden stools covered with jaguar pelts, or resting on fine, intricately woven reed mats. They are not loud, they are not shouting. The sound is a low, pleasant murmur, respectful voices. They are dressed in cloaks of the finest white cotton, so finely woven that in the torchlight it looks like silk. Around their necks they wear heavy beads of jade. Green jade, milky jade, precious jade. Some wear lip plugs of obsidian or gold. The air smells different here. The sharp, pine-like scent of copal incense is heavy. It hangs in the air like a sacred cloud. It's meant to cleanse the space, and underneath that, another smell. Flowers, piles and piles of flowers. Tuberose and marigolds. Their sweet, pungent perfume mixes with the incense and the smoke of the torches. The music is soft, the conversation is low, and then the murmuring stops. The music softens. A woman has entered the courtyard. She is not a noble. She is a server. But she moves with a kind of slow, deliberate grace. She is a dancer. She is an artist. She carries two very large, beautifully painted clay pots. This is the show. She walks to the center of the courtyard. She places one pot on the ground. It is empty. The other pot is in her arms. It is heavy. It is filled with the xocolatl, the cold, gritty, red-colored liquid we imagined before. The one mixed with chili and allspice and vanilla, but it has no foam. It is flat. It is unfinished. All eyes are on her. Dozens of pairs of noble eyes. Watching, waiting. She takes a breath. She lifts the full pot. She lifts it high as her arms can reach, straight up. She's strong. Her arms do not tremble. And she begins to tilt it. A thin, dark red stream of liquid emerges from the lip of the pot. And it falls. It falls 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet. A long, unbroken thread of chocolate falling through the torchlit air. It is aimed at the tiny mouth of the empty pot on the ground, and the sound it makes as it falls and hits the bottom of the other pot. Shh. It's the sound of rain, the sound of a waterfall. It fills the courtyard. Shh. She is pouring the liquid from a great height. It splashes. It churns. It hits the clay and explodes into itself. The entire pot is empty. She stops. She lowers the empty pot to the ground. She bends and picks up the new pot, the one that is now full. It already has a thick layer of bubbly foam. But it is not enough. It is not perfect. So she takes a breath, and she lifts that pot, high, and she pours it all the way back into the first pot. The sound is even louder now. The foam is building on foam. She does it again and again, back and forth, lifting these heavy pots full of liquid, her arms straight, her face calm and serene. She is not just mixing. She is forcing air into the drink. She is emulsifying that fat and that water. She is creating the foam out of strength and air and gravity. It is a performance of skill, a performance of balance. If she were to spill a single drop of this precious liquid, this money, this sacred drink, it would be a terrible shame, a disgrace. She does not spill a drop. Shh. Finally, she stops. She lowers the pot. She stands. Now, the pot in her hands is different. The liquid has transformed. It is topped with a foam so thick, so dense, so stable that it looks like a solid. It is a rich, reddish-brown, beautiful cloud. This is the treasure. Now, other servers come forward, moving just as silently. They carry the small, handleless cups, the xocolatl, painted with geometric designs. And the woman, the artist, she does not pour the drink. Oh no. She takes a special, long-handled spoon made from a polished gourd, and she skims the foam. Only the foam. She gently scoops a large cloud of the foam and places it into a cup. Then she scoops more foam for the next cup, and more for the next. She gives all the foam first. Only after every cup has a heaping mound of the foam does she gently tilt the pot and pour a small amount of the liquid underneath it. The drink is served. The nobles take their cups. They hold them in the palms of their hands. They do not gulp it. They do not chug it. They raise it slowly, respectfully. They sip. And the first thing they get is that thick, rich, bitter foam. It coats their upper lip. Then they taste the liquid, the cold shock, the chili kick, the floral vanilla, the gritty, complex bitterness. They take a sip. They pause. They talk. They feel the theobromine beginning to work, that gentle, stimulating spark. Their minds feel clear, focused, alert. This is a civilized drink, a drink of power, a drink of clarity. It makes you a better conversationalist. It makes you a more disciplined noble. It is the drink of order. But let's look around this party again. In a different corner, away from the center, there is another drink being served. It is not served with a performance. It is ladled quietly from a large, squat clay pot. And it is not dark and red. It is pale, milky white, a little thick and frothy. This is pulque, or octli, as they called it. This is the other sacred drink. This is the fermented sap of the maguey plant, the agave. It is alcohol. And in the Aztec Empire, alcohol was terrifying. It was not fun. It was not a way to unwind. Drunkenness was chaos. It was loss of control. It was the worst thing a person could be. The Aztec ideal was discipline, order, control. A commoner found drunk in public for the first time would have their head shaved as a mark of public disgrace. The second time they could be beaten to death. A noble found drunk, a priest, a warrior. Death, instantly, no second chances. To be drunk was to lose your humanity. So why is it here, at a noble feast? Look who is drinking it. Look closely at that corner. They are old. They are very old. The grandfathers and the grandmothers, the elders of the families. Their hair is white. Their faces are maps of wrinkles. Because this was the one exception. The Aztec rule was that if you were over the age of 70, or some say 52, at the end of a full century cycle, if you had lived your life, you had worked hard, you had raised your children, you had served the empire, you had been a disciplined, controlled citizen for decades, Then you had earned the right. You were allowed to get drunk. It was your privilege, your reward, your retirement plan. So in this corner, the elders are drinking the milky, sour pulque. They are laughing a little louder. They are allowed to be chaotic. Their time for discipline is over. What a difference. You have the nobles in their prime drinking chocolate to become more focused. And you have the elders drinking pulque to finally let go. 2 drinks, 2 purposes. And our bitter, spicy, foamy, cold chocolate was the drink of power, the drink of now, the fuel that ran the empire. Let's leave this feast. Let the sound of the thump, thump, thump of the drum fade away. Let the crackle pop of the torches grow distant. We are floating away from this beautiful, orderly, incense-filled party. We are leaving the city itself, leaving the high, dry valley of Tenochtitlan. This cacao is so important. It's money, it's medicine, it's a ritual drink, but it doesn't grow here. The high Aztec valley is too cold, too dry. The cacao tree is a diva, it's fussy. It has to come from somewhere else, somewhere far away. So let's drift. Let your mind go south, floating south, over the mountains, down, down, down into the other place, the hot place, the wet place. Let's go back to the jungle. But this time it's not wild. This time it's a farm. Let your mind sink into the deep, green humidity. We're going to the source. Just breathe. Just let your mind go. Let it float free. We are leaving the torchlight, leaving the cool mountain air of Tenochtitlan. The sound of the flute and the drum has faded to nothing. We are drifting, floating on a gentle current of air, south and down, over the sharp, dark peaks of the mountains, down from the high plateau. And as we drift down, 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 the air begins to change. It is no longer cool and crisp. It's getting warmer and warmer and wetter. You can feel it on your skin. A soft, warm dampness. The air is thicker. It's heavy. It's like a warm, wet blanket settling over you. The sounds change. The sharp silence of the mountains is gone, replaced by a sound. A hum, a million tiny sounds all at once. The buzz of insects, the chirp, chirp, chirp of a tree frog, the distant throaty call of a bird we don't know. The smell changes. It no longer smells of dry dust and piney incense. It smells of earth, a rich, dark, damp earth. It smells of green things growing and green things decaying. That rich, loamy, sweet smell of a jungle floor. It smells of life. We have arrived at the source. We are in the lowlands, the land of the cacao. Let's drift down, gently, through the canopy. The first thing you notice is the shade. We are not in a field. We are not in an orchard with neat rows. We are in a forest. It looks like the wild jungle, but it's not. It's a garden. A xocolatl, a cacao grove. Look up. You can barely see the sky. High, high above us are the giants. Great, ancient saber trees spreading their arms wide. Their leaves create a canopy, a giant green leafy umbrella that stretches for miles. And under that umbrella, there is another layer. Smaller trees. Trees with wide, waxy leaves. Banana trees, trees they called Madre de Cacao, the mother of chocolate, because our tree Theobroma cacao is a diva. It is fussy, it is difficult, it is needy, and its first demand is this: I will not be in the sun. Direct sunlight burns it. It scorches its delicate leaves. It hates it. It demands shade, dappled light, the kind of soft, gentle, greenish light you find only on the floor of a protected forest. So the farmers had to become foresters. They didn't clear the jungle. They managed it. They thinned it. They planted the cacao trees underneath the other trees in their protective shadow. Imagine standing there. The light is soft and green. It feels like being underwater. Now feel the ground under your feet. It's not dry earth. It's damp. It's spongy. It's a thick carpet of fallen leaves. Years and years of fallen leaves. And under that, the soil is black and rich and wet. This is the second demand of the fussy tree. My feet must always be damp. The cacao tree is thirsty. It needs a lot of water. It needs that thick, humid air. It needs frequent, soft jungle rain. But it's also fussy about this. If the water sits, if it floods, if its roots stand in a puddle for too long, it dies. It throws a fit. It rots. So the farmers had to plant it on gentle slopes, where the water drains, where the soil stays damp but never soggy. It's a diva. It wants everything just so. It needs shade. It needs constant moisture but good drainage. It needs warmth. It hates being cold. One touch of frost, it dies. It has to live near the equator, in that perfect, warm, humid belt. It hates wind. A strong breeze would snap its delicate branches. It needs those other giant trees around it to be its windbreak, its bodyguards. This is why it couldn't grow in Tenochtitlan. That was too high, too cold, too dry. The cacao was a foreign treasure, a luxury import. It only grew here, in this difficult, humid, shadowy place. And here it is. Let's look at it. It's not a huge tree. It's medium-sized, about 20 feet tall. Its bark is dark and a little rough. And there they are, the pods, growing right out of the trunk. It's so strange. It never stops being strange. Not on the little twigs, right on the main trunk. And the thickest branches. They look like small, colourful footballs that someone has glued to the bark. Yellow ones, green ones, deep purple and red ones. The tree is fussy, but when it's happy it gives this gift, this heavy, ridged, lumpy, magical fruit. But how does the fruit get there? It comes from a flower. You would think this tree would have a magnificent flower, a giant, showy, beautifully scented blossom, to match the divine status of its fruit. You would be wrong. Let's look closer. Look at the trunk, right there on the bark. Do you see it? It's tiny. It's so tiny. The cacao flower is smaller than your fingernail. It's a pale, waxy, pinkish white little thing. It looks like a tiny, intricate star, and it's hiding. It grows on a little stem and it points down. It hangs upside down, facing the ground. It's shy, and its petals are weird. They are not open and inviting. They are complex. They form a little cage around the center of the flower. This is a flower that does not want to be found. And the smells. Lean in. Closer. It doesn't smell like perfume. It doesn't smell sweet. It barely smells at all. And if you catch a faint whiff of what it does smell like, it's a little bit funky, a little bit like mushrooms, a little bit like fruit that has started to turn. It is not an attractive flower. And this created a problem, a big problem. A flower needs a pollinator. It needs something to move the pollen from one flower to another. So who would pollinate this flower? This tiny, upside-down, caged, bad-smelling flower. Let's think. A bee. A big, fuzzy, happy bumblebee. Way too big. It can't even see the flower. It would just fly right past. And even if it landed, it's like a bus trying to park in a doll's house. Can't get in. A butterfly, with its long tongue. A proboscis. No. The flower has no nectar. There's nothing for the butterfly to drink. It's not interested. A hummingbird, please. The flower is not red. It's not trumpet-shaped. It has no nectar. The hummingbird doesn't even know it exists. Wind? Could the wind pollinate it? No. The flower is sticky. The pollen is sticky. And remember, the tree hates wind. It lives in a protected, still, shady place. The air doesn't move. This is a riddle, a biological impossibility. The Aztec farmers knew this. They didn't know why. They just knew their trees didn't make fruit. A cacao tree will produce thousands of these tiny flowers a year, tens of thousands, and almost all of them just die. They bloom for one day, one single day, and if no one comes to pollinate them in that one day, they just wither and fall off. 99.9% of the flowers just fall uselessly to the ground. It's a tragedy. It's an economic disaster. The farmers would hold rituals. They would pray. They would beg the gods. They would probably try to hand pollinate with a tiny twig or a feather, but the flower is too small. You can't get inside. It was a mystery. What is the secret? Who is the secret helper that makes the chocolate happen? It wasn't a god. It wasn't a bee. It wasn't a butterfly. The savior of the cacao tree, the hero of this entire story, is a fly. A tiny, tiny, annoying fly. It's called a midge. A biting midge. It's so small you can barely see it. It's the size of a pinhead. A speck of dust. A flying comma. It's the kind of bug you would wave away from your face without a second thought. And it is the only creature on Earth that can pollinate the cacao tree. Why? Because of all those fussy demands. 1. The midge is tiny. So tiny that it is the only thing that can actually crawl inside the tiny cage of the cacao flower's petals. It fits. 2. The smell. That faintly funky, mushroomy smell of the flower that no bee likes. The midge loves it. It thinks it smells like a good place to lay eggs. It thinks it smells like home. Home for a midge is not a beehive. Home for a midge is damp, rotting, decaying stuff. And where do you find that? On the jungle floor. Remember that thick, spongy carpet of damp leaves that the cacao tree demands? That constantly wet soil. That is the midge's nursery. That is where it is born. The cacao farmer's job wasn't just to grow cacao trees. His secret, unknown job was to be a midge farmer. By keeping the forest floor damp and shady and covered in leaves, he was creating the perfect midge paradise. A farmer who too was too neat, who raked up all the leaves, who let the sunlight in to dry the soil. His midges would die, and his trees would make no fruit. It's a perfect hidden partnership. So let's watch. It's early in the morning. The air is very still and very damp. A tiny midge, a little female midge, has just been born from the leaf litter. She flies, not far. She doesn't like to fly high. She stays low, in the shade. She smells it, that faint, funky smell. She lands on the bark of the cacao tree. She crawls. She finds one of the tiny, downward-pointing flowers. She crawls right in. Inside the little petal cage. It's a maze. She blunders around. She is looking for a place to lay an egg. As she blunders around, her back rubs against one part of the flower. A little clump of sticky pollen gets stuck to her back. She doesn't notice. She realizes this is not a good place to lay eggs. She's confused. She crawls back out. She flies. 2 feet. She lands on another cacao tree. She smells another funky flower. She crawls inside. She blunders around again. And as she blunders, that clump of pollen on her back brushes off onto the exact right spot. The stigma. The flower is pollinated. The midge is clueless. She leaves, still looking for a place to lay her eggs. Her work is done. She has no idea. She has just created the beginning of a cacao pod. That tiny flower that was going to die today now will not. It will cling to the tree. The petals will fall away, and the base of the flower will begin to swell. Slowly, so slowly, over days and weeks. It swells from the size of a pea, to the size of a grape, to the size of a strawberry. And over 5 or 6 months, it grows into that giant, lumpy, heavy pod, filled with those precious beans, all of it. The emperor's drink, the money in the market, the red paint, the healing balm, the stimulant for the sad. All of it depended on an accidental meeting between a fussy flower and an invisible fly that was just looking for a place to lay her eggs. The great Aztec economy was built on the back of a midge. Let that thought settle over you. How the biggest things in the world depend on the smallest things. How something so powerful can be so fragile. Just let your mind rest in that shady, damp, green forest. Rest with the fussy trees and their invisible helpers. We are going to leave this magical grove. The pods are grown. The farmers harvest them with long knives. They ferment them, they dry them, they roast them, and they send them on the long journey back up the mountain, back to Tenochtitlan. But our journey is not over. The bean has arrived. The Aztecs are using it, and then everything changes. A new people arrives, a people from across the ocean, a people who have never seen cacao, a people who are very confused by this cold, bitter, spicy drink. Let your mind drift again. We are leaving the jungle. We are traveling forward in time, just a little bit, to a moment of great collision, a moment of profound confusion. Just rest and listen. Let your mind go soft. Let the deep green jungle just dissolve into a gentle mist. The hum of the midges and the drip, drip, drip of the rain is fading. Fading. We are floating again, moving forward. The years are passing. Not many, but enough. The year is 1519. We are back in Tenochtitlan, back in the great city, back in the palace of the Emperor Moctezuma. But something is different. There are new sounds. The sound of metal clanking against stone. Clink, clank, jingle. It's a harsh sound in this city of cotton and stone and feathers. The smell is different. Under the copal incense and the marigolds and the corn, there is a new smell. The sharp, sour smell of unwashed bodies. The rusty smell of old iron. The musky animal smell of horses. Animals no one here has ever seen. They have arrived. Men with hair on their faces. Men with skin burned by the sun. Men wearing metal clothing. The conquistadors. Let's imagine a room. A high, cool room in the palace. Moctezuma is there, calm, dignified. He is a king. Hernan Cortez is there. He is not calm. He is restless. His eyes are everywhere. He is looking for one thing. Oro. Gold. The emperor, in a gesture of profound welcome and power, decides to share his greatest treasure. He does not offer them gold. Gold is for jewelry. It's pretty. He offers them true wealth. He offers them cacao. He signals, and the servers come in, moving with that same silent grace. They are carrying the cups, not clay ones, for the emperor, for these strange guests. They are gold, sikali made of thin hammered gold, and they are filled with the best, the finest drink, the cold, red, spicy, bitter drink, topped with a cloud of thick, rich foam. A server kneels before Cortez, offers him the golden cup. Cortez looks at it. He is confused. He sees the gold cup that he likes, but inside it is a thick, dark, muddy-looking liquid, and on top is a scum, a bubbly scum. He thinks it's scum. He thinks it might be spoiled. But the emperor is watching. So Cortés takes the cup. He feels it. It's cold. He was expecting wine. Oh, something hot. It's cold. He smells it. It doesn't smell sweet. It doesn't smell like fruit. It smells like dirt and peppers, spicy. He's very confused, but he is a soldier. He's brave. He lifts the cup and he sips. Imagine your whole life you have only tasted bread, wine, cheese, roast meat, sugared fruits, and now this hits your tongue. The first shock is the bitterness, an overwhelming, mouth-puckering, chalky bitterness. The second shock is the texture. It's gritty, particulate. It doesn't feel smooth. The third shock is the fat, that oily, greasy feeling that coats his mouth and his beard. The fourth shock is the chili, the sudden kick of fire in the back of his throat. Cold, bitter, gritty, oily, spicy. This is not a pleasant drink. This is awful. This is punishment. One of the conquistadors who was there, a man named Bernal Diaz, he wrote about it. He wrote about everything. And he said they brought in this drink with its scum on top, and that it was a drink for soldiers and power, but he couldn't stomach it. Another Spaniard wrote later that this drink seemed more a drink for pigs than for humanity. They hated it. They politely smiled. They put the cup down, and they said, "This is very nice. Now where is the gold?" They did not understand the drink, and they did not understand the money. When they finally got to Moctezuma's treasury, they were furious. Yes, there was gold, rooms of it, but the main treasury was a warehouse, a giant building filled with sacks, sacks and sacks and sacks of rotting beans. They thought it was food storage. They thought it was animal feed. Why are you hoarding almonds? They must have thought. When they were told, no, this is the treasure, this is the money, they thought it was a joke. They thought these people were savages. Their money grew on trees. Their money rotted. You could get bugs in your money. It made no sense. This bitter, spicy pig drink was their most valued thing. The gulf between the two cultures was so wide, and in the middle of it was this bean. The conquest happened. It was brutal and it was fast. And after the dust settled, the Spanish were in charge, and they still had all these beans. The tribute was still paid. The beans kept coming up from the jungle, and the Spanish looked at this drink again. "It is awful," said a soldier. "Truly disgusting," said a priest. "But," and this is the moment everything changes, but the natives say it gives them energy. "And I am very tired, and the emperor used to drink it before visiting his wives, so it must do something." They were curious. How can we make this pig drink fit for a human? How can we make it fit for a Spaniard? They thought about what they didn't like. Problem 1, it's bitter. What do we have that is the opposite of bitter? Well, the Spanish had a new wonder, a new luxury crop they were growing in their island colonies. Cane sugar, azúcar. It came in hard brown cones. You had to chip it off. So someone had an idea. Let's grind the beans on the metate, just like the Aztecs. Scrunch, scrape. But this time, let's grind in a big chunk of this hard sugar. They mixed it, they added water, and they tasted it. Well, that's different. The bitterness is still there, but now it's balanced. It has a friend. It's not just bitter. It's bittersweet. It's interesting. Okay, they thought. This is better, but it's still got a problem. Problem 2. It's spicy. This chili pepper is too aggressive. It's not civilized. Let's take that out. So they stopped adding the chili. But now it's a little boring. What spices do we like? Well, they had spices from their trade with Asia. How about cinnamon? So they ground in a cinnamon stick. How about a little black pepper? They added that. What about cloves? They made it smell like their idea of Christmas, their idea of home. They tasted it again. Sweet, spicy but not hot, bitter, complex. We are so close. Problem 3, it's cold. This is the weirdest part. Drinking cold sludge. It's unsettling. Let's heat it. So they put it in a pot. They put it over a fire. And they served it hot. And the heat changed everything. The aromas were released. The smell of the chocolate and the cinnamon filled the room. The fats melted in a different way. It became a comforting drink. It was almost perfect. One last problem. Problem 4. It's gritty and oily and watery. It still feels like drinking hot mud. The fat floats on the top. The grit sinks to the bottom. How do we make it smooth? Creamy? What did the Spanish have that the Aztecs did not? Cows, goats, sheep, milk, cream. Someone a genius, a monk in a monastery kitchen, a nun, a rich lady who was bored. Someone thought, instead of mixing the paste with water, let's mix it with hot milk. And that was it. That was the moment. The fat in the milk loved the fat in the cacao. They emulsified. The sugar in the milk added even more sweetness. The liquid became thick, velvety, smooth, rich. They had done it. They had created a drink, hot, sweet, milky, spiced with cinnamon, with a deep, rich flavor of cacao underneath. They had invented hot chocolate, and it was nothing at all like xocolatl. It was the exact opposite. One was cold, bitter, watery, and spicy hot. It was a stimulant. One was hot, sweet, milky, and spicy warm. It was a comfort. The Spanish fell in love with it, obsessed. It was their drink, and it still had that cacao magic, that theobromine. It gave them energy. It made them feel good. And they kept it a secret. For almost 100 years, they shipped the beans back to Spain. The rest of Europe didn't know what it was. It was a Spanish monopoly, drunk by royalty, drunk by monks who argued if it counted as food. Could you drink it during a fast? It was a luxury, their luxury. And that is the journey. That is why the drink that Moctezuma drank from a golden cup, and the drink you might have on a cold winter night, share only a name. The bean took a long, strange trip, from a bitter seed of a god, to money you could counterfeit with mud, to a healing balm for your skin, to a foamy performance in a palace, all made possible by an invisible fly in a jungle, until it met a confused conquistador who hated it so much he had to add sugar. And now you know. You know why their chocolate tasted nothing like your hot cocoa. And it is time to sleep. May these memories, these gentle thoughts of history, just guide you into peaceful dreams. May you float on a cloud of that ancient foam into a deep and restful night. If you drifted off, if this journey helped you, let me know below. Sweet dreams, my friend. Sweet dreams.